We were in a picture taken 17 years before any of us were even born. Every town has a story like this one. A street no one visits. A porch light that never comes on. And a house that still remembers the sound of children at its door. This is the story of the Carver house. The story went that Mr. and Mrs. Carver disappeared on Halloween night, 1962. They'd been handing out candy like always, the full-size Hershey bars, neighbors said. The good stuff. When sometime around 9 o'clock, they simply vanished. Police found the front door standing wide open, porch light still burning, a wooden bowl on the steps still half full of chocolate bars. But here's what made it even stranger. The candy wrappers they found inside the house, dozens of them, were dated 1974, 12 years after the Carvers disappeared. After that, no one touched the place. Not family, not the bank. It just sat there, year after year, like something that the neighborhood had agreed to forget. Every October, the older kids would dare each other to go knock on that door after midnight. Never before, always after. Because the legend said if you showed up after Halloween ended, after the costumes came off and the candy ran out, and you knocked on that door and said, "Trick or treat," the Carvers would answer. And they'd still be handing out candy from 1962. It was senior year. Me, Tyler, Jess, and Nate. We'd spent the night bouncing between houses, hyped up on candy and cold air. The kind of Halloween where the world feels lighter, like anything could happen. By a quarter to midnight, the streets were empty. That's when Tyler said it. "Let's hit the Carver place. One knock, one photo, proof we're legends." Nobody answered. We just laughed. Because that's what you do when you're scared and you don't want anyone else to notice. I knew it wouldn't end well. That gut-tight deja vu hit me, like I've already lived in this moment before, and I knew what'd come next. We reached the house at 11:58. No lights, no wind, just that weird silence that presses on your ears. Then the porch light flickered on. Jess whispered, "That light's been dead for years." None of us moved. The boards under our feet groaned. We climbed the steps. Tyler grinned at us, like this was some kind of a movie. And at exactly midnight, he said it, slow, stretched, like he wanted the night to listen. "Trick or treat." Nothing. Then a soft click, the sound of a lock releasing, and the door eased open. For a second, I actually felt relieved. I thought maybe there was a family inside, someone who would laugh and just tell us to go home. But the house was empty. Inside was a single bowl of candy on the floor. Old wrappers, dusty chocolate, the smell of smoke, and something sweet that had been dead too long. Jess screamed. Nate bolted. Tyler laughed. Said it was a motion sensor. But Jess and I heard it. From somewhere in that house, a voice, soft, distant, young, not more than 10 years old. Treat. That word followed me into the street. We ran, but halfway down the block, I had to look back. Just once. I could swear I made out a woman in the upstairs window. She wasn't moving. She was just smiling. And at that moment, I knew I shouldn't have ever looked back. A year passed. We stopped talking about it. Then, we stopped talking altogether. Tyler transferred to a school 2 states over. He wouldn't say why. Jess dropped out spring semester, and she moved in with family in Oregon. When I ran into Nate at a gas station that summer, he looked straight through me, like I wasn't even there. But I couldn't let it go. The house sat in my head like a splinter working deeper. I'd dream about that upstairs window, the smile, and every time I woke up, I'd think the same thing. What did she want? So on October 30th, the night before Halloween, I went back alone. The change hit me before I even reached the property. The boards were gone, all of them. The windows were clean. Not just clean, but polished, reflecting the streetlight like they'd been waiting for someone to notice. The porch no longer sagged. It looked maintained, cared for. And there, on the top step, sat a jack-o'-lantern, freshly carved, still wet inside. Its face was cut in a wide, crooked grin, the same lopsided smile I'd worn in my senior photo. I should have left. You know that. I know that. But next to the pumpkin was the bowl. Same wooden bowl from the legend, filled with candy bars. Hershey's, like the story said. I picked one up. The wrapper crinkled under my fingers. It was warm. Not room temperature. Body warm. That's when I looked through the window. The front room was furnished now. An old floral couch, a coffee table with a lace doily, and on the wall, above the mantel, a framed photograph. I had to lean in closer to see it clearly. It was the 4 of us, me, Tyler, Jess, and Nate, standing on this exact porch, holding pillowcases full of candy, grinning like we had just gotten away with something. But our clothes were wrong. The colors were faded, washed out, like a Kodachrome print from the 60s. Tyler was wearing a Letterman jacket I'd never seen. Jess had on a dress with a Peter Pan collar. And in the corner of the photograph, written in careful cursive, Halloween, 1963. We were in a picture taken 17 years before any of us were even born. I backed away from the window, and that's when I felt it. A hand, small, cold, ice cold, resting on my shoulder. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. Behind me, a woman's voice. Not old, not young, just patient. Whispered, "You came back." When I finally was able to make myself look, there was no one there. Just the empty street, the house behind me,
and the porch light burning steady. And in my hand, the candy bar that I picked up. I opened it without thinking. The chocolate inside was white with age, crumbling in my fingers. The wrapper I was holding, dated 1962. I went home shaking. I didn't sleep because I couldn't. It wasn't more than maybe 3 weeks later that I spoke with someone who claimed they knew the story about the Carvers and the history of the house. She claimed that Halloween was a jarring tragedy for the Carver family. Mr. and Mrs. Carver had one child, a son named Tyler. He was 10 years old when he died on Halloween night, 1963. She said he'd been hit by a car while trick-or-treating. The driver never stopped. Carvers were devastated. They started handing out candy every year after that, full-size bars, like they were trying to give Tyler the Halloween that he never got to finish. But that's not what made my hands go numb. She continued to explain that on November 2nd, 1963, 4 teenagers were reported missing after a Halloween prank. Carvers had called it in. They said a group of kids knocked on their door after midnight, laughed, took photos, and ran off into the dark. The parents were worried. The kids never made it home. Searches turned up nothing. No bodies, no leads. Just a Polaroid left on the Carver's porch. 4 teenagers, smiling, holding pillowcases full of candy. I didn't need to see the picture. I knew with every fiber of my being that I was one of those teenagers in the Polaroid. I moved 3 months later. Different city, different life. But some nights, I still wake up and check my reflection, just to make sure I'm still solid, that I cast a shadow, that I'm still here, because I can't stop thinking about that night. The Carvers disappeared a year later, Halloween, 1964. Door open, porch light burning, bowl of candy untouched. But police found something else. Inside the house, scattered across the floor, dozens of Polaroids, all of them showing the same 4 teenagers. In different houses, different streets, different towns, all dated after 1963. To this very day, I honestly can't tell if we knocked on their door that night, or if it was them who had been waiting for us to come back. Either way, I think the Carvers may still be handing out candy, maybe across space and time. And I also think that we may still be trick-or-treating for eternity. Halloween is for the living, at least until the clock forgets which side it's on. So when the night drags past midnight and the porch light flickers where it shouldn't, remember the Carver house, because sometimes the ones who answer may have been waiting a long time for you to knock. Thank you for listening. It is now past midnight, so sleep well.